Oh, what's up YouTube? Everyday Johnny here to do a little side-by-side and just kind of talk about the Spyderco Techno right here and the Spyderco Sage 2. Right next to it here we got the Mannix 2, it's a crewwear version, Paramilitary 2, and an Endura. Just kind of for size comparison, and I'll probably roll them next to each other a little better later, maybe. We'll see. But yeah, these two guys. Awesome, cool little knives, huh? Lately I've been really into smaller knives, and you know, especially with titanium. Sometimes you get like these titanium knives and they kind of weigh you down if they're big enough. And these guys, being as small as they are, they don't really push 4 ounces often, and that's beautiful. That's good enough for me. Under 4 ounces is it's a light knife, if you ask me. And these knives both get compared a lot in the forums and whatever else. I've seen a couple videos, I think, on them side by side. Not a whole lot. I figured I'd put my own 2 cents out there, be another little cog in that debate. I'm gonna tell you right now, as a left-handed person, and this might have changed if I was a righty, maybe, I don't know. I'm preferring the Sage. I'm preferring the Sage because the Techno, as a lefty, it's a little harder to access, I guess, which is my one bias. But I think even if I was a righty, I'd still prefer the Sage, because as cool as this knife is, and it's definitely the cooler of the two, it's the cooler looking. Aside from a couple of things, I'm going to say this design, the way this knife is laid out, and the overall look of the knife is cooler. But the Sage just feels better. It works better, like while you're in use, you know. Easier to operate. That choil is awesome. That choil is great. You want to know why? Because, you know, some people say, like, with the smaller leaf-shaped Spydercos, that choil is kind of a nuisance when you're cutting something because it gets caught. And here's my thing with that. If you're doing something that you got to cut a long way, like maybe bubble wrap. The other day I was cutting bubble wrap. You want to choke up on it, because then rather than get caught on that, it's going to rub up against your finger, and you know, you'll know what you're doing. You'll keep it from hitting that choil ever, because you know, hopefully you're watching out for your fingers. You're not really rubbing your fingers against whatever you're cutting. So you know, use your finger as a guide there, and you never have that problem really. With the Techno, it doesn't have a choil, so I find myself cutting stuff and then getting caught up right here in this little area. And you know, just from a utilitarian perspective, Sage is a little easier to operate, and it feels better. So there's some advantages right there. Sage has this nice blasted, or whatever it is, I don't know, blasted titanium. It doesn't really have that stonewash look, but it develops that like snail trail, you know, use marks that titanium in this fashion develops. And I think that looks great, and I think it'll look greater with age. Both of these knives are relatively new for me. Probably a few months old on the Sage and a month old on the Techno. The Techno has more of like a stonewashed pattern over that gray coat, as well as the pocket clip has kind of is rolling like a stonewash type of deal, a darker, more subdued clip than the polished one on the Sage. I think the Sage, finish-wise, with that satin blade and the plain scales and the polished clip, I prefer those finishes personally. One thing I do prefer on the Techno though, it's got like this stonewash but polished blade. Like I don't know if you can see my camera in that, kinda like it's almost like a mirror. Well, it's, you know, it's mirror-ish. It's definitely not a mirror polish, but it's mirror-ish with that stone wash, which is cool. It's really cool finish on this. I don't know if I'm picking it up, doing it justice, but really cool. I mean, I prefer the Sage, But if you like both of these knives and you got the dough, I get them both. I'm not going to sell either, you know. I love these knives. Even as a lefty, if you're a lefty and you want a Techno, a lot of guys complain about it, but as you can see here, I'm really not having that much of an issue with Spidey flicking it. Which, you know, with Spyderco knives, I almost always Spidey flick them. This just feels so much better in the hand. This is going to be more legal everywhere, I guess, like the 2.5-inch blade limits that certain cities have. This fits in there, and it's still like a pretty substantial knife in hand to use. So they both have their benefits, and they're both kind of similar. But you know, depending on like what you're looking for, you want like a really good knife to use, or a cooler looking knife that's smaller but packs a punch of a bigger knife, you know, that's a Techno. I like this one better in use. And if you're a lefty and you have enough trouble with righty knives as it is, you might just want to get a Sage. As a lefty personally, I notice that you know, I don't really have a problem with righty knives because I've been around them most of my life. You know, it's one of those things, it's not that hard to overcome. I've seen a lot of people just write off the Techno as left-handed people, and you know, it's such a cool design. It's totally worth it to have that little bit of opening style to get used to, you know. I don't know, it's just such a cool looking knife that I couldn't pass it up, and I've gotten used to it, and I don't think that I'll ever have a problem opening it in like an emergency situation or whatever. And every day I'm usually carrying one knife and my Endura on my weak side, which is very easy to open, and in an emergency situation I can open my Endura. Which, yes, I carry this knife basically every day, unless I roll in something else cheap on my weak side, you know. But it's pretty much the Endura every day. That's my backup blade. It's not always in my Instagram pictures because, you know, it's kind of plain, you know. I like to show off my cooler knives, I guess. But this is on my weak side, man. I eat food with this and keep it clean in the event of a emergency situation. I don't know, whatever, if that was ever to happen. But these knives, man, I love them. I love them so much. They're tops for me right now. This is my favorite knife ever right here, this Manix. But these two guys have been doing me wonders. And if you're thinking about getting either one, I recommend them both. I say this is the better user. This is the prettier looking one. Their finishes do vary slightly. I hope I kind of showed that in this video. I mean, everything I talked about was kind of just like my opinions on stuff, or you know, how I use the knives. But you know, a lot of guys watch videos just to see the knives, and I'm hoping I've given you some cool angles of them together to make a decent a judgment of which one you like more aesthetically. Because, you know, when it comes down to it, you're going to carry the knife you like that looks good and feels good. Because in this day and age, we can have both. We can have a knife that looks awesome and does its job awesome. So if you're going to pay $180 for a knife, you might as well find that, right? And these are definitely knives where you can find that. Another thing about these knives' prices, though, is they're not too bad. You can find these cheaper than certain places have them offered. For a little while, a seller on eBay, BELOTE, had these for $130. That's pretty good for a Sage. I got my Techno for $145, which is also pretty good for a Techno. You can find these knives for like $180 most places, or around there. So if you can find them cheaper, go for it. A lot of people don't like eBay. I kind of like eBay. I can find pretty good prices on eBay. But you know, more often than not, I'm gonna go for like Blade HQ or Knife Ship Free. But you know, sometimes you find a good price on eBay. Who am I to judge? Shop on eBay. I shop on eBay sometimes. There's a lot of small stores on eBay. working hard just like everybody else, and it's nice to give them your business too. So yeah, these knives kick ass. I recommend both. That's my opinion on both of them. This is a little size comparison also in this video. Yeah, man, that Techno's small. It's thick though. It's not, well, it's not too thick, but it's thicker than the Sage. So the blade stock is too though, and it's a nice thick blade stock. Weird thing, you're kind of getting the same amount of cutting edge with these, if you think about it. But yeah, I can't recommend them enough. I love these knives. Go grab one.